In July 2025, David Barnea, director of Israel's Mossad, visited Washington to persuade the U.S. administration to help find countries willing to take in hundreds of thousands of Palestinians whom Israel seeks to forcibly displace from the besieged Gaza Strip. The idea of displacing Gaza's residents was previously floated by U.S. President Donald Trump in February, but was later temporarily shelved. However, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has remained determined to carry out the plan. U.S. officials told their Israeli counterparts that if they wanted to execute the displacement, they would need to find countries willing to accept Gaza's residents. Netanyahu tasked Mossad with this mission, instructing it to seek out countries willing to participate in the crime of forcibly displacing Gazans from their land. Mossad appears to have made some progress on this front, as David Barnea met with Trump's Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff and informed him that 3 countries, Ethiopia, Indonesia, and Libya, were open to taking in large numbers of forcibly displaced Palestinians, according to Axios. Barnea suggested that the United States try to convince these countries to join the displacement project by offering them suitable incentives. According to Axios, the current U.S. position on the Israeli proposal remains unclear, but given Trump's unpredictable nature and Israel's significant influence over him, anything is possible. After a dinner at the White House between Trump and Netanyahu, a senior Israeli official told reporters that Trump had expressed interest in continuing efforts to displace Palestinians from Gaza. The primary tools the Israelis and Americans are using in their push to force Palestinians out are starvation and siege. In December 2023, weeks after Israel launched its assault on the Gaza Strip, a group of officers and businessmen close to the Israeli government met at the Mavi Israel school to discuss plans that would allow Israel to control the distribution of aid in Gaza and sideline international organizations responsible for this task. The idea was to give the Israeli military the ability to use food and medicine as weapons against Gaza's population. The attendees agreed on the idea of contracting private sector companies to distribute aid in Gaza, sidelining international organizations, foremost among them the United Nations. In early 2024, the Israelis began discussing their plan to seize control of the aid distribution file from international organizations with a former CIA officer named Philip Riley. Riley quickly became the preferred partner for the Israelis in their plan to dominate aid distribution in Gaza. Riley's background as a seasoned former U.S. intelligence officer allowed him to present himself to Israeli military and intelligence officials as someone who could help develop new models for aid distribution in Gaza. By late 2024, while working for the company Orbis, Riley carried out a detailed study on delivering aid to Gaza using external private companies and institutions, according to an Orbis document reviewed by the New York Times. In November 2024, a legal representative of Riley founded 2 companies that later played a role in the distribution of aid in Gaza. 1, Safe Reach Solutions, established in the U.S. state of Wyoming. 2, Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, established in the U.S. state of Delaware. Safe Reach Solutions was one of 2 American security firms involved in screening Palestinians returning to northern Gaza at the Netzarim corridor during the most recent ceasefire, which began in January 2025. After the ceasefire collapsed due to Israel's breach of the truce, Safe Reach Solutions remained active in Gaza, but this time in a more dangerous role. By May 2025, the company had become the primary entity securing aid distribution centers built by the Israeli military in Gaza to control the flow of aid and eliminate the role of international organizations. In October 2024, the former U.S. intelligence officer with close ties to the Israelis began working with the Boston consulting group BCG to develop a project called Aurora, aimed at controlling aid distribution in Gaza and facilitating the displacement of Palestinians. BCG helped establish the Israel and U.S.-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation and Safe Reach Solutions, which alongside the Israeli military were responsible for the deaths of hundreds of Palestinians and injuries to thousands more at aid distribution centers. BCG's involvement in the project lasted about 7 months, under contracts worth more than $4 million in total, according to the Financial Times. In April, BCG worked on a separate file studying the costs of displacing Palestinians from their land and the future of Gaza in the post-war phase. The U.S. firm prepared a financial model for Gaza's reconstruction, which included cost estimates for displacing hundreds of thousands of Palestinians and resettling them abroad. One scenario developed by BCG assumed that over 500,000 Gazans would leave the Strip if offered resettlement packages or incentives worth $9,000 per person, meaning that displacing 500,000 people would cost no more than $5 billion. Another scenario envisioned offering $5,000 to each Gazan who left, along with housing rent support for 4 years and food subsidies for 1 year. BCG estimated that in this scenario, a quarter of Gaza's population would emigrate and that 75% of those who left would never return. On May 25, BCG withdrew its team from Tel Aviv and decided to end its cooperation with Israel on the project after sensing that the partnership was about to be exposed in the press. On the same day, Jake Wood, CEO of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, announced his resignation, stating that the organization's activities conflicted with the principles of humanitarian neutrality. On May 28, during a meeting of BCG's senior partners in Vienna, the U.S. firm questioned the two partners responsible for cooperating with Israel on Project Aurora, Match Lutter and Ran Ordway, and requested their resignation. On July 6, 2025, the Financial Times revealed that a think tank affiliated with former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair had contributed to a plan for Gaza's post-war future. The Israelis dubbed this plan the Great Trust, under which they proposed pushing 500,000 Palestinians to leave Gaza and bringing in private sector investors to develop Gaza according to the Israeli-American vision. The plan calls for placing all public land in Gaza under the management of a trust fund through which Gaza's land would be sold to investors using blockchain technology. The plan includes 10 massive projects, such as Gaza Trump Riviera and Islands, a luxury resorts and artificial islands project along Gaza's coast, Elon Musk Smart Manufacturing Zone, an industrial area for producing American electric cars, and 2 highways, MBS Ring and MBZ Central Highway, referring to Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed. For months, the Israelis have imposed a criminal siege on Gaza, blocking the entry of aid to more than 2 million people. The only available aid channel is the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, whose activities are effectively death traps for Gazans who face daily killing and humiliation at their distribution centers. Moreover, the aid it provides is grossly insufficient and far below people's needs. This is deliberate. Israel seeks to starve Gaza's population for 2 main reasons. 1, to pressure Palestinian negotiators in prisoner swap talks to make significant concessions, and 2, to push Gaza's residents themselves to emigrate at the first available opportunity. The victims of this criminal Israeli policy are Gaza's residents, foremost among them children, whom Israel is deliberately starving to death. Just days ago, a 1.5-year-old girl died at Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital in Deir al-Balah, central Gaza, from hunger and malnutrition, joining dozens of other children who have died of starvation in Gaza. The idea of a child dying of hunger is horrific and evil and must be stopped at any cost. The painful irony is that these children are dying of starvation in an Arab region where 2 of the biggest problems are obesity and food waste. On July 19th, the UN Relief and Works Agency, UNRWA, posted on X that it has enough food supplies to meet the needs of Gaza's entire population for over 3 months, but the stockpile remains in warehouses waiting for Israel's approval to enter. The food urgently needed by Gaza's population, especially children and women, is being deliberately blocked by Israel. We are facing a major Israeli-American conspiracy against Gaza's people that has been in preparation for months. This conspiracy involves 1. Controlling aid by sidelining international organizations and using private security firms, 2. Using starvation as a weapon to force Palestinians to emigrate, 3. Developing detailed financial plans to displace hundreds of thousands of Palestinians, 4. Engaging international consulting firms in devising these criminal schemes, 5. Finding countries willing to accept forcibly displaced Palestinians. This sinister plan ultimately aims to empty Gaza of its population and transform it into investment projects serving Israeli and American interests, representing one of the largest acts of ethnic cleansing in modern history. You've been watching Decoding MENA. If you found this investigation revealing, subscribe and share to spread awareness. Knowledge is our defense.